Every morning before dawn, she set out. The edges of the road ahead of her were dim, the air cool and still. She walked, in silence, with resolve. For her, this walk was more than a journey from one place to another, it was a pilgrimage born of hope. Each step carried the weight of expectation, each mile a test of endurance. She walked 10 miles to the place where she believed education would unlock something better. Her village lay far from the school, so far that the only realistic option was her own 2 feet. She left the modest home she shared with her family, the early light barely touching the horizon, and made her way. The road was sometimes rough, gravel and dust, slopes steep, and sometimes the weather unkind. Yet she kept going. Why? Because in her mind education wasn't a luxury, it was the lifeline. She knew that if she sat idle, if she gave up, life would repeat itself, generation after generation of the same struggle. Along the way, she passed fields where others labored, goats wandering by the roadside, the occasional pickup truck humming past, and children still sleeping. But she walked. She wore simple clothes, carried a small bag, books, notebooks, pencils. Her shoes not always new, but enough to shield her feet. At times she paused, a brief rest under a tree, a sip of water from a flask, a moment to collect her thoughts. Then she rose and continued. Mile after mile. When she arrived at the schoolhouse, she entered not with fanfare but quietly, as one accustomed to sacrifice. She sat at a desk, opened her notebook, and studied. The world of letters and numbers seemed distant earlier in her life, but here it began to take form. She learned to read paragraphs, to solve problems, to imagine possibilities. And as she did, her dreams grew. What if she could help her family? What if she could lift her siblings? What if education would mean she could rewrite the script of her life? Days grew into weeks, weeks into months. The walk didn't become easier, but the purpose crystallized. She had assignments, tests, and the occasional discouragement. Some days she was tired, her legs heavy, the return journey looming. Some days it rained and the road turned slick. Yet she never abandoned it. Inside her burned the conviction that she must persist. Unbeknown to her, someone was watching. Across town, in a large house with glass windows and polished floors, lived a man who had climbed the ladder of wealth and success. He was a millionaire, someone used to being recognized, being in control, being comfortable. He observed the town's rhythms, the flow of traffic, the children going to school. Then he noticed her, she walking 10 miles every single day. He watched her from a distance, the disciplined pace, the unwavering route, the daily ritual. Intrigued, he wondered why. What was behind this daily trek? What did she believe in so strongly? One day he decided to follow. Not to invade, not to confront, but to witness. He shadowed at a respectful distance, watching her early morning departure, the quiet road, the terrain she covered, the destination she reached. He saw the look on her face when she arrived at school, the focus, the hope. He saw the return journey, her footfalls tired but unrelenting. And in that moment something shifted in his mind. He approached her one afternoon before dusk. The sun low, the road again quiet. He introduced himself and asked, "Why do you walk so far to study when there are nearer schools?" She looked at him and smiled gently. She said, "Because this school gives me what others don't. Because I believe in a future not just for myself but for my family. Because I walk so that my voice can be heard, so that my world can change." He was struck. Here was a young woman with nothing but, walking 10 miles, hoping for something more. He realized the contrast between his world and hers, his comfort, her grit. His resources, her resourcefulness. In that meeting, he saw potential, not just in her, but in what she represented, perseverance, courage, a refusal to be defined by circumstance. Moved, he offered to help. He said, "What if I support your education? What if I try to remove the burden of that daily walk?" She paused. At first she hesitated, pride, caution, humility, but then agreed. He arranged funding. He arranged better shoes and a bike. He arranged tutoring. Through his intervention, her journey became lighter. But what really mattered didn't stop at the material improvements. Because in recognizing her effort, the millionaire also recognized something larger. The idea that when someone is willing to walk 10 miles every day just to learn, the world owes her more than a bike or a scholarship. The world owes her opportunity. The world owes her access. The world owes her the chance to be seen. And so a transformation began. She still studied. She still rose early. But now the burden of the long walk was easier. The promise of what lay ahead was brighter. The man realized his wealth meant little if he remained distant from stories like hers. He realized that real value isn't just amassed money, but the power to invest in lives. He realized that his success could ripple outward. In time, she excelled. Her grades rose. The simplest subjects turned into stepping stones toward greater goals: university, leadership, perhaps starting a program to help others from similar backgrounds. She became a symbol of what is possible when someone dares to walk 10 miles for an education, and what is even more possible when someone with means chooses to walk alongside. The story rippled outwards. It inspired families in her village to believe. It inspired other students to refuse excuses. It inspired teachers to pursue equity. And it reminded the man millionaire that real wealth lies not in accumulation but in contribution. Her journey remains a testament. The 10-mile walk wasn't just geographic, it was metaphorical. It represented the distance between where she was and where she wanted to be. It represented hope stretching into the horizon. It represented the belief that education can be a bridge across that distance. It represented the idea that someone watching, someone willing to take action, can alter the path. And so this tale carries lessons. Strength can appear quiet. Determination can walk unseen roads. Opportunity often requires effort long before reward. And when those who have resources recognize those who have resolve, something remarkable can happen. The path ahead for her is still long. The destination not yet reached. But every step she took, those early hours of walking, the arrival at school, the chance meeting with someone who believed in her, has changed her story. What began as a solitary walk across dusty roads has become a journey shared by two worlds, one of grit and one of means, one of will and one of support. In the end, it isn't simply that a millionaire followed her and saw why, it's that he followed and then became part of the why. Because he saw that the walk mattered, and chose to invest in the purpose behind it. And in that decision, both their stories changed. If you ever feel your road is long, remember her footsteps. If you ever doubt the value of your struggle, remember that someone might be watching, might be moved, might choose to walk with you. If you ever hold resources, remember that your means might meet someone's resolve, and together you might cross 10 miles, one step at a time, towards something greater.